Triggers allow us to execute code in response to inserts, updates, and deletes that take place on our database. Now, triggers are frequently used for auditing and logging purposes. So if I maybe need to store previous values, I can do that with triggers. They can be used for updating related tables. For example, I might have on my orders table a column for the total due for a particular order. But I might have a separate table for all the individual details or line items. So what I could do is I could create a trigger that whenever you modify the line items, that we then go back to the orders table and update the total due for that particular order. And then last but not least is we can use this for complex validation. Now, triggers do have a couple of downsides. First of all is performance. Triggers are part of the current transaction, always. Now, while the nice part about this is that it does give you the ability to roll it back, the downside is that your trigger must complete before the transaction can complete. And one of the things that we discussed in the transaction lesson is the fact that whenever you're creating a transaction, you want that to be as short as possible. And triggers are going to do the exact opposite of that. They are going to extend a transaction. The second concern about a trigger, and why some people like to shy away from them, is that they are, well, sort of hidden. That a trigger will take place automatically behind the scenes, but a properly designed trigger is not going to indicate to the caller of the insert, update, or delete statement that something behind the scenes happened. And so that can be rather disconcerting for some DBAs, for some developers, so they will shy away from using triggers because of those reasons. Triggers come in two main varieties: instead of triggers and after triggers. An instead of trigger is going to capture the intended operation. So if you're trying to do an insert, an update, or a delete, I'm going to capture whatever it is that you were actually trying to do, and I'm going to do something different. The reasons for this is that, one, it will allow me to make modifications in places where maybe I'm normally not allowed to make modifications, in particular with views. One of the things that we discuss in the views lesson is the fact that depending on the type of view that I create, how I'm getting my data, I may not be able to update through that view. By using a trigger, I can work around that. The next big reason to use an instead of trigger is to flag an item as maybe archived rather than actually delete it. And this can be very useful for situations where we need to do reporting, we need to be able to roll back and see prior values. And so by just simply marking an item as deleted or as archived and not actually deleting it, gives us access to the data, but still allows for a delete statement to be executed. The other type of trigger that we have is an after trigger. An after trigger executes after the operation completes successfully. Now, it is still part of the same transaction like we said before, so we can still roll that transaction back. The main reason to use an after trigger is to log any modifications that might have been made or to update other tables.